another little bit of a combined session. The previous evening, I ended up skipping the workout. As I came back from work, long day there, cycling to and from, and my hip was very stiff. There was no way that I was going to be squatting proficiently without risking injury of any kind. So I moved it over to the following day, and I kind of matched the two sessions together. So I was doing some squatting at the beginning and also some overhead pressing. So the main compound movements were kind of pushed together, and I ended up not doing a couple of things from either of those sessions. So missed a bit of work, but managed to keep the heavy and important stuff in my head, at least for now, in. The next day I was feeling much better. I'm finding that sleeping on the opposite side of where my hip is tight allows me to be in a position where there is no pressure from the bed, and the tissue, the piriformis, is allowed to ease into a comfortable position and stay there for a few hours. Then in the morning I wake up, I go through a light stretching routine that allows me to reach some deeper positions with a bit of a lumbar flexion without experiencing pain, doing a few movements in there, very slow, very controlled. And at that point, I'm doing fine. If I'm off and I'm able to do those throughout the day, I don't really feel any discomfort come the evening. But if I'm at work, it's mainly the fact that sitting is not really helping it. And although I try to stand as much as I can, there are times where I am sitting anyways, and that is not really helping things out. So by the time that I get home in the evening, I feel a bit of tightness. So I usually am able to release that with a bit of that stretching routine. But because of all the tension that has accumulated throughout the day, sometimes it's just better to go easy, especially when there is an exercise like the squat that is going to demand some sort of mobility and strength in some pretty deep ranges of motion concerning the hips. Squats, anyways, this day they felt good, they were looking okay. I added a rep from the previous week, so I did 2 sets of 4 with 87.5 kilos. And then in between I was doing the usual leg raises with an extra 2 kilos. In here, on the leg raises, I'm actually now cueing myself to keep my feet dorsiflexed. Maybe it's gonna help out in the sprint training by reminding myself to always have those feet in that position. Cannot hurt. And those were not giving me any discomfort when I'm raising my hip with my leg straight, which sometimes happens. But if I am able to isolate that movement and kind of relax before I get into that, it's not a problem at all. And so the squats were feeling okay. Then I moved over to overhead pressing, which was going to be the main exercise for this day. And then I was supersetting that with some single arm rows that were mostly going to be from the previous evening. I was meant to superset those with some back extensions, which I decided not to do because I was combining these two sessions together. And once I was done with this superset, by the way, I actually went up in weight. I went 40 kilos on the overhead press, which was the kind of a big thing. I now remember mentioning on the previous week's session where I was doing overhead pressing how I was going to be moving over to 40 kilos as I slowly made my way back up from finally managing the rotator cuff injury / inflammation that kind of plagued me for the best part of the last year. So I finally got back to 40 kilos. I was doing 1 set of 5, 1 set of 4, and they were feeling okay. And then I moved over to a bit more sprint training, just the first step. I think I was doing a better job at keeping my heel recovery lower than before, and thinking about keeping my foot dorsiflexed. In here, really the main focus is on doing those two things together. So there were quite a few repetitions where I wasn't really looking the best in terms of starting position. There was a bit of a delay between the first leg coming up, the first knee driving through, and the switch, because I wasn't really focusing on that. I was mainly trying to get the first leg movement all right, even if I wasn't really pulling the knee up too much. And then I was doing a couple of handstands and also a few jumps, both approaches, left, right, and right, left, for a couple of repetitions each. Didn't want to do too much stuff because I started off doing squats, and then I was also doing overhead pressing, unilateral pulling movement, and this was at the end of the session, so the weight at the beginning probably did not really allow me to go full on effort on these jumps, which were the last exercise of the session. I decided to get them in because I have not been jumping much lately, and it's good to kind of remind myself, my body at least, how these are done. So as soon as I can refine and improve my sprinting technique, I will be pairing them more with each other. Ciao.